Everybody, this is Jim XB with Compliance Professionals. Today I'm going to be talking about the exposure plan. Let me hold it up for you. You fellas may have seen this down then. Can you get a good shot of that? Right there. We got to chat about it a little bit. Why it's important to pay attention to this plan. Very important for all of you. So let's get into it just a little bit today. I'm going to be talking about respirable crystalline silica. Now, what in the world is respirable crystalline silica? Okay. The work that you do in your workplace, all the tasks that you do in your workplace, can expose you to respirable crystalline silica. And how breathing in the respirable crystalline silica, it's almost too much to say every time, isn't it? I might just say the crystalline silica and understand it's respirable that I'm talking about. That means you can breathe it in, respirable, right? How all of that could affect your health. So just what the heck is this crystalline silica? The most common form of it is just plain old quartz. It's found everywhere on the face of the earth. Crystalline silica is a common mineral found in the Earth's crust. Materials like sand, stone, concrete, and mortar contain crystalline silica. It's also used to make products like glass, pottery, ceramics, bricks, artificial stones. It's all over the place. It's everywhere we go. A definition of respirable crystalline silica is very small particles, at least 100 times smaller than ordinary sand you might find on beaches or playgrounds. It's created when cutting, sawing, grinding, drilling, crushing stone, rock, concrete, brick, sawing brick, sanding, drilling into concrete walls, grinding mortar, and cutting or crushing stone result in worker exposures to respirable crystalline silica dust. So, if you're constantly inhaling these really small particles, you may be at increased risk of developing something that's pretty serious. It's a silica-related disease. Breathing in silica can cause your chance of developing lung diseases. One of them, silicosis, lung cancer, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, commonly referred to as COPD. It also increases the chance of developing kidney and autoimmune diseases. The higher the levels of silica that you're exposed to, and then the longer that you're exposed to it, the greater the chances of developing these diseases. Fortunately, in your workplace, you won't be exposed to these that long. Not even close to it, as a matter of fact. Silicosis and COPD are lung diseases that are permanent and not curable, and they can become deadly or disabling. Employees exposed to long periods of silica could develop silicosis. There's 3 forms of silicosis that can develop based on how much silica employees are exposed to or for how long. Most employees who develop silicosis develop chronic silicosis, which develops after repeated exposure over 10 or more years. Accelerated silicosis typically develops after 5 to 10 years of exposure to higher levels. And acute silicosis typically develops after exposures to extremely high levels, way more than you would ever be exposed to. These normally occur with abrasive blasting with sand, and it usually occurs within a few months to less than 2 years of exposure. It's the rarest forms, one of the rarest forms of silicosis. So there's some ways to control and protect yourself. Number one, if you look at how OSHA develops and looks at problems that are faced in front of them, first thing they want to talk about is engineering controls. That's way at the top, of the pyramid. If we got the pyramid right here, number one, engineering controls. Engineering controls remove or isolate silica dust at the point where it's made. So here's an example. Let's pretend someone is near you and they're cutting block without engineering controls. And you would just see a huge, large dust cloud around them versus cutting block using water to control the dust. The second most effective way of protection is work practice controls. Work practice controls involve doing tasks in ways that reduce dust exposure. So an example of this would be fixing engineering controls that aren't working properly, or even simply wet sweeping. If you got to sweep up an area, wet sweep it down to decrease the amount of dust around you, or perhaps schedule daily tasks when workers just aren't around if you had to do that type of cleaning. The third effective way of protection is personal protective equipment, such as a respirator. One of the major reasons why engineering and work practice controls must always be used before respirators is because they decrease the dust at the point where it's made. As a result, they protect everyone in the entire area. The silica standard requires your general contractors to use engineering controls and work practice controls first, always first, to reduce those exposures. Building Erection Services has done this by adopting, and I'm going to reach over and grab it again, their own written silica exposure control plan, and has continued to train on this plan several times for you. It's important that you pay attention to it. Your employer has also designated a competent person to frequently inspect the job site, look at the materials and equipment to implement the written exposure plan. The competent person must be able to identify silica hazards and must be authorized to quickly eliminate or minimize those hazards. If somebody comes along and they're a competent person, they've been trained as being a competent person, and they come over and say, hey, whoa, stop what you're doing right now. I'm going to shut this down for a while. Somebody's over there and a big cloud of dust is floating your way. Okay? Pay attention to it. So the most important thing that you can do is follow Building Erection Services plan. Everybody, follow that plan. This plan applies to all BESCO employees who are expected to and or may be exposed to respirable crystalline silica, as outlined in Section 4 of the plan, or in other means which may be determined by Building Erection Services company management, supervision, or competent persons. Please comply with this plan and any further safety recommendations provided by supervisors and or the safety department regarding the silica exposure control plan. So in summary, always follow Table 1. Let me pop it open for you so you can take a look at it. It's in here. Table 1's right here in the book. Follow Table 1 of the plan, which matches 18 common construction tasks with effective dust control methods and the directions of the written silica exposure plan. If you do this, you should never have any problems and you can feel safe. Please, everybody, be safe in all that you do. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next month.